Hi, how you going? So I'm out here at the Upper Yarra Secondary College disc golf course, and I'm going to try out a bunch of weird discs, and I'm going to get straight into it because nobody likes a long introduction. So the first disc I've got is one that you've probably heard of and you might have even seen around. There's not a lot of them around anymore. It is the Quest Turbo Putter. This was designed for, not for putting like normal, but for turbo putting, and it has this ridged edge for gripping with your fingers, and it's got a swirl on the bottom to lock your thumb into. I've tried this one a little bit and I find it harder to turbo putt with this than I do with a normal disc, but I'll give it a go and show you how it works. Okay, here we go. I'm probably at about circle's edge, having a go with the Quest Turbo Putt. I've been trying to learn to turbo putt recently, so let's see how this goes. See, it just doesn't fly very well for me, whether it's the plastic, whether it's the weight. It's a 167, so it should fly well. I'm going to give it a go just with Axiom Paradox. See, and that actually flies a lot nicer, but I'll have a few more goes and see if I can get it to work. The point of the swirl on the back is so that you can grip it in different ways. So I'll give it a bit wider grip and see if that makes a difference. I just can't get it to fly right. And the normal disc works once again. So I don't think the Quest Turbo Putt is worth it for turbo putting. Probably better off learning with a normal disc. So the next disc I have is not the gum putt that everybody's probably heard of, or the blowfly, which is quite wobbly and you've seen people roll them up into a taco and throw them like a ball. But I have the Elevation Interceptor, which is much more floppy, much more able to be manipulated than the gum putt. So what this will do is you throw it on a bit of hyzer. When it hits the ground, it's not going anywhere. So this is made by Elevation. They also make a Koi, which is a putter, a Binks, which is a mid-range. They've got a Firebird equivalent, and I think they're coming out with a high-speed driver, but all made with this really super floppy plastic. Here, about 30, 40 metres from the basket over there. The whole point of this is you throw it on hyzer, it hits the ground, it crumples, and it just stops. To me, this kind of flies a little bit like a pig or a harp or something like that. It's got a bit of overstability. And that just stopped. If you give it full power, it tends to deform and not fly very well. It just deformed and dove into the ground. So the next disc I have is the Yikun Yan. It says it's a mid-range, it's a 3600, but it's quite deep, as you can see. It's got the nice edge, and it's quite deep and domey. But the more I looked at this, the more I realized it was just a remake of the Innova Aero, which is pretty similar, which again, I believe is 3600. So when the Aero wasn't being made anymore, Yikun stepped up and had a crack at it. So I'll give these both a throw and show you how they go. Throw it on a little bit of hyzer and just give it a full rip. And you can really see that 6 glide out there. Now let's throw the Yan and see if that flies exactly the same, which it should, because it's pretty much identical. Yeah, that's fairly identical flight. It's got some nice turn, holds that, and a little bit of stability at the end. So it says it's 3600, it says it's a mid-range. I'm trying to work out where exactly I would throw that in a normal round. I think it's probably for the straight shot when you don't want to be throwing a full mid-range. But yeah, they went a decent distance with a fairly controllable line. It says it's gone 88 metres. That's a fairly decent chuck. So the Yikun Yan, even though it says mid-range on there and the whole point is that it's for throwing, still actually works okay as a putter. And that, because it's deep, sits in the hand nicely and it's got a lot of glide, it is just a nice little floaty run putter as well. So that's the Yikun Yan. It's kind of a mid-range, kind of an approach putter. Really fun disc, and I'll definitely be throwing that a bit more. So the next disc I have is an early RPM Kiwi. So this is the RPM Kiwi. This is in the base plastic, so makes it a little more understable. But as you can see, it is a really low parting line. It's almost like an inverse tilt. So this is super unstable, but what they did was decide that that's not what they wanted their flagship disc to be, and they remade the Kiwi, and it now flies more like really beefy, kind of more beefier than a destroyer. So I'll throw both of those and show you how they go. So I'll just throw these flat with some power. And that's off down the hill. I'm not sure if you're able to see that. I threw it flat, it turned into a roller and held cart the entire way. So I'll throw the other one now and the new one and show you what their difference is. And that starts fading the moment it leaves the hand. So as you can see, two very, very different discs. Okay, I've reached the end of the oval and I'm still going. I can see the kiwi down there. Somehow it got across all these ditches and got caught up in the bracken down here. And on angle, it's still going. Okay, so that kiwi went a mile on the roller angle. I'm going to throw this on a ton of highs, really steep, and just see if I can get it to actually fly straight. That actually flew really nicely, but I threw that on so much hyzer. Now I'll just bomb the normal kiwi out there. Have to give this a bit of Annie to make it fly. I think it's quite beefy. Similar distance. Here's where the newer kiwi landed. And here's where the old kiwi landed. So one on Annie, one on steep hyzer, and they landed in pretty much the same spot. Okay, the next one, it's not a weird disc as such. It's just a weird reason to buy it. It's the Discraft Flick, and I bought it so I could take part of the label off. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. This is more of a forehand disc, so I'll give it a rip. It's one of the better forehands I've ever thrown. So next I have two more Quest AT discs. I have the Raging Inferno and the T-Bone. And what's unique about these ones is that they have this dimple pattern, kind of like a, let's see if I can get that to focus, dimple pattern, kind of like a golf ball. The Raging Inferno's got it on the top and the bottom, whereas the T-Bone just has it on the bottom. And their point was to try and see if they could make something that had the aerodynamics of a golf ball, because a golf ball will fly better with those dimples than a flat one would. And I think that's what they were going for here. So given that they were going for more distance and glide on these, I'll throw them against my normal distance drivers, which I throw Wraiths for max distance. So I'll throw them, then I'll throw these two, and we'll see how they compare. Wraith number one. That's pretty good. Probably just out over 100 metres, 110, something like that. Second Wraith. That one's not quite as far, but still flew really nicely. And that'll give the baseline to compare the Quest discs to. First, Raging Inferno. Oh, that's got some turn. I might have to throw that again to give it a proper go. Now the T-Bone. That flies really nicely. They both had some nice turn, but they definitely pulled out of it at the end. So I'll allow for that second time. So I feel like I didn't throw the Quest discs well, so I didn't do them justice. So I'm going to have another go. We've got a downhill shot. We've got left to right slight breeze, so it's pretty much perfect for getting max distance. I'll give these a go and just see if I can really push them out there and show how they fly, because they shouldn't be judged by my bad arm. Raging Inferno first. I don't know what it is, I just can't get that one right. Try the T-Bone again. This one seems to have been flying nicer for me. It is a nice flight shape. It has that quite heavy turn, but then it comes out of it at the end. Let's compare that again to the Wraiths. See, regardless of how the T-bone flies, that flight from the Wraith is exactly what I wanted. It's repeatable. It doesn't come down to grip. I just throw it and it works. And that's why discs like the T-bone don't make bags. They're inconsistent. You have to really think about what you're doing with them, and that would probably stop a little bit if you threw it more and got more used to it. But with the Wraith, just push it out there and it does what it's supposed to every time. Once again, we have the T-bone and we have two Wraiths. They've gone almost exactly the same distance, but the Wraiths just felt better. They felt more predictable. So yeah, the T-bone's not making the bag. So there you have it, a bunch of weird discs. Some of them weird because of how they are, some of them weird because of how they're made, some of them weird because of how they fly, and some of them just weird. So none of them are going to make the bag, but they're all fun to throw around anyway. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you got any questions, any comments. Just let me know what you're thinking, and I'll see you next week. Bye.